Thank you guys all for getting on here. You're going to really see a different stance from me going through this with Dana Scratton because I just love and admire him. I've known him for years. A lot of you already know the incredible place that he comes from. When we did the mastermind with the science of getting rich, and a lot of you were part of that. So you guys are going to see me really act uniquely different on this series because I'm a student, just like each and every one of you. Of course, I have difficulties being quiet, unlike Terry. So,
You're welcome. You're welcome, everybody.
so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn it over to Craig. They were talking before I jumped on, and I believe today we're gonna keep it under an hour, and Dana's just basically gonna go through an intro, all the stuff at the beginning, what we can, how we're gonna handle the rest of the parts of the book. And so, Craig, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Actually, I think, Robert, you did such a great job on the interview. I'm going to ask it or make mute everybody first of all. So hold on, everyone, please. All right. So, as we just explained, and we appreciate everybody joining us today, this is a very special event, similar to what we've done in the past with regards to uh, the science of getting rich. And so, what we want to do is we want to do that now with Outwitting the Devil. And it's a book by Napoleon Hill. I will put the link in the chat so that we can all get the book. But in the meantime, we're kind of giving you an introduction to it. And of course, who better than the gentleman who kind of inspired this whole course, this class, than a gentleman who really helped us out with mastering the science of getting rich, our previous class, special class. And want to give it up to this person because very good speaker, very interesting to listen to, and he's got a lot of knowledge. So without further ado, let's go ahead and everybody give a nice big round of applause to Mr. Dana Scranton.
Oh, well, thank you for that intro, Craig. Man, I'll tell you, I don't think there's a better guy in the world to introduce anybody. Okay, so the first question, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Okay, great. So I want to make sure the technology is working. Well, first of all, welcome to this series. This is something that Robert and I have discussed over the past several months, off and on, is the value of this book. It's a book that I came across some time ago and read it. And honestly, when I first read through it, I was kind of impressed and befuddled all at the same time. I was trying to think, wow, that's a pretty heady book. But as it sat in to my personality, if you will, over the year that from the time I got it to the time I picked it up again, I read it one more time, and then I went and I read Think and Grow Rich, and I came back and read it again. And then it was absolutely illuminating at that point. And that's when I decided this book was something the world needed to see. Now, or hear. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is Robert has kind of launched his objective of making a giant impact. Well, this book is absolutely attuned to that because it is filled with timely wisdom and ideas on how to achieve that objective for each of us. And so as we get into this, I would ask you keep an open mind because as you listen to it, and I think Robert has the audiobook that he's going to queue up for us. When you hear the way that Napoleon Hill wrote this book over the years, you can understand why some of the things I'm going to get into in a moment occurred. So keep an open mind. And with that, what I want to do is pull up the slide deck here, Craig. Let me see if I've got it. Well, it ain't that one. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull this off. There we go. Nope, that ain't working. This is what happens when you get technology in the way. Hold on. Okay.
Is it a PowerPoint?
Okay, we got to get rid of that and come down here to Zoom. All right. It's not pulling up the video. What's going on?
Is it Keynote or is it PowerPoint?
It's Keynote.
All right, go down and click on Keynote.
Okay. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay.
Going up to
It
your other
says it's
screen.
sharing that screen. Do you see it?
We don't see it. Why don't you close out what you've got? In other words,
Okay.
turn off your screen share.
Okay, we're going to stop share.
And then turn on your screen share. But when you turn on your screen share, select the Keynote that's open.
There we go. I had selected desktop too.
And we've got it now.
Okay.
And then if you want to make it full screen, you go ahead. Otherwise, leave it right where it's at.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to leave it where it's at because the slide order on the other side, I might want to jump back and forth and I don't want to have to keep pulling that up. So, okay. So you've got the slides up. So we're going to start this with a purpose because as we get through this course, as with the science of getting rich, purpose is one of the key elements that you have to have in order to succeed in life. And, we have Robert as an example of that. So let's get into it. What this series is and the driving purpose behind it is to help you create a purpose that will ultimately allow you to help others. Okay. And so the purpose is helping you find or enhance your definite purpose. Now, I don't know if many of you have a definite purpose. If not, by the time we're through with this, the objective is that you will have one. If you do have one, the objective is to enhance it. And to do that, and along the way, we will attempt to help you create an authentic life of freedom of your choosing and design on your terms. Now, that's something Napoleon Hill encountered in his up and down journey. And you'll hear that as you go into this book. And why is that important? So that you can make a positive impact on the world now and in posterity. So to be clear about what that last line means, if we look at Napoleon Hill as an example, in his lifetime, he was concerned about making an impact on the lives of many people. Only later in his journey did he decide that it was something that he wanted to be in posterity. In other words, after he had passed away, it would continue, and indeed it has. I believe he, as we'll see in the next slide, he passed away, I think, back in 2007. But that said, long before that, the momentum behind his contributions were huge. So that's the purpose, to help you create that authentic life of freedom and everything that that brings with it to allow you to make an impact on the lives of others. Because without doing that, you really don't achieve anything. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This book, Timeless Wisdom, it is a book that is filled with experiences, ideas, and wisdom. Even though written in 1938, the book was released in 2011. And if you listen to the audiobook, Sharon Lecter, who gives a little bit of insertions here and there, she points out that in 2011, there was a crisis in the economy and society that is exactly what was being faced back in the 30s, in the 20s, when Napoleon Hill was in his prime. It is exactly what we're facing today. Believe it or not, times haven't changed, but the philosophies to change us so that we can change the times is in fact right here in this book. So one of the things to think about as we go into this, not only its relevance now and into the future, but also it's an opportunity for you to adapt to the philosophies and to adopt the ideas to make them your own, to help you live with definite purpose and definiteness of purpose. Those are two different things, and we'll get into that as we move forward. So real briefly, this is a genesis of the book, of the life of Napoleon Hill, sorry. In '08, he met with Andrew Carnegie. He went there with a plan that he wanted to write about the successes of people to pay his way into law school. And Andrew Carnegie gave him some ideas. He took those ideas and he ran with them for nearly 20 years, but he actually finished his research in only 4 years. But it sat around and gestated as he kind of went off into the world and did different things. Finally, he got the manuscripts done, but he didn't do anything with what he knew. So he just passed on for a while and did some things. In 1923, he got stranded. This was at a time in his life when he got distracted. In other words, Napoleon Hill was not always focused on having a great purpose. He was human. He got distracted. He found himself lost, no direction. And so he was stranded without funds. And he had this manuscript that was all of the research that he had done, but he hadn't done a thing with it because he had been off doing other things. Well, he finally decided to sit down and finish that manuscript in 1924, and he did that. Well, nothing much happened to it. He kept going forward, and then finally he created what he would call a success system, but it still hadn't come to the world. Well, in 1926, things got bad for him. He got, in one of his business ventures, he got associated with a gentleman who was an editor of a major publication who took on the mob and pointed out the corruption in the police force that was helping the bootleggers move booze into the town. Well, that person was his business partner. They got together, and this guy was going to invest in helping him get his manuscripts of the Law of Success into the public domain. Well, before that ever happened, the mob got him. They assassinated this guy, and then the very next day, Napoleon Hill got a phone call that said, "You got an hour to get out of your house because they're coming after you. And so you can either get out now or you'll get out in a pine box." So within that hour, he jumped in his car and took off to Virginia to live with relatives, and he stayed there for 6 months, living in fear, and that destroyed him. It literally destroyed him, and he did nothing with those manuscripts. Well, knowing that, he faced himself. He got fed up and decided in 1927 that he was going to challenge himself. He was going to come back and fight whatever the demon was that was causing him to be stuck in life. And so that's what he did. And we'll learn about that in the course of this book. So in 1928, he came back after committing to himself that he was going to finish this book, finish this work, and he finished what would become the Law of Success. And he took that to the world in a series of seminars and contract presentations to big corporations. At that point, it wasn't a book. His manuscripts had been broken down into teachings, but ultimately they would become an 8-volume set. Well, in 1929, the Great Depression hit, and that wiped out every dime he had. He lost his real estate, he lost his bank account, and he was destitute. And the end was right there in front of him. Well, he overcomes doubt. He says, "I am going to solve this problem." And this is where he gets in touch with something called his other self that we're going to learn about, something that's keenly important for all of us. So he sits down and he has a very serious discussion with himself about how he's going to solve this problem of being stuck and broke. Plus, he probably didn't want to live with his relatives any longer. Can you imagine just living in the basement with your relatives who kind of think you're a slacker and a ne'er-do-well? Boy, did they miss the point. So he got in touch with this other self and ultimately ended up finding an investor who published the 8 volumes of the Law of Success. So then that became the book. So he taught from that book. He pushed it into many corporations. It became a sales manual for a lot of different industries. And he knew that he had to take it further than that. And so he did. But it was a big book. And I think, I don't know if you can see this in the little video. It's, well, we'll get it over here. Law of Success. It is a really thick book. This thing is, oh gosh, it's 1,000 some odd pages. Yeah, well, 800 pages anyway. Huge page. huge page count. That book is what Think and Grow Rich came from. Think and Grow Rich is essentially a condensation of that book. So that was 1938. In 1970, Napoleon Hill passed away. So, yeah, 70 was the right date. Well, this book that you're seeing today, the one that we're going to be going into, was part of his legacy, but it was passed on to the family after he passed away. Now, why it didn't get published initially? The reason is because at that time, and even today, it contains some controversial thought, controversial ideas, that his wife was afraid if it came out, it would destroy him, destroy his businesses. It would put the family in a state of being ostracized from society. And so she asked that the book not be published. In fact, the manuscripts, that's all they had at that point. So that's where the book lied. That's where the manuscript just rested in a vault as part of a legacy that was waiting to grow. You know, his legacy had already grown with Think and Grow Rich, but this book had even more content in it that could propel people to success. It hasn't really caught on as much as he might have thought, but if you look at the views on Spotify, it's, you know, each of the chapters has an average of about maybe 3,000 views. That's not many, but it's a powerful book, and I'm sure there's many people who have read it and use its principles. So when this book finally came to the Napoleon Hill Foundation was after the niece of the Napoleon Hill family came forward with it. She passed away, and before she passed away, she handed it to the Napoleon Hill Foundation and said, "You may publish this, but not until I'm dead." So she passed away, and Napoleon Hill Foundation published this book. Sharon Lecter is actually the person who did the publishing of it. So she interjects things into it. When you see in the book, when you see something that is ascribed to the author, that author is Sharon Lecter. She doesn't take credit for the book. She just takes credit for authoring the some of the information that leads into it. So that is the history of how this book got where it got to and where it came from. Now, like I said, it's basically a condensation of Napoleon Hill's autobiography. This is his journey told in a very different way than most people would have expected. He tells the journey of the ups and downs and the challenges that he experienced over several years that eventually brought him to success. The thing is, that journey never ended. He may have passed away, but his impact goes on, and I don't see where that is going to stop, honestly. And excuse me, I have to put that on. There we go. Put that on pause. So what is taught in this book, and it's what is taught also in Think and Grow Rich, is the thing that will move you forward regardless of the influences is a definite purpose. And that alone is critical. And so that's going to be a major theme as we move through this book. And when he gets into his interview with the devil, you're going to learn that this is the antidote to the influence of the devil. And so look forward to hearing that a lot. Okay. Your legacy. Okay. One of the things that we want to do, and it's what I spoke about in the beginning, is this book will help you take your legacy forward. What is your purpose? What impact do you want to have? What lives do you want to change? What kind of clarity can you bring to your purpose, and how can this book help you? And yeah, so see, we got a misspelling there. So take this book seriously. This will help you grow your natural entrepreneur. This will help you grow who you are, where you're going, and how you can impact the world. And it comes to you in a very different way, in a story form, in this interaction between Napoleon Hill and the devil. And what an interesting way to teach. You know, at that time in the 1930s, in the 20s, you know, religion was in a very different state than it is now, but in some respects, a very similar state. And so for them to digest the idea of Napoleon Hill sitting down having a conversation with the devil, that was a bone-chilling prospect. Probably something that most people would not want to encounter at that time, which is the reason his wife probably said, no, just, put this thing in the freezer and let's let it go. So one of the questions you'll ask yourself as we move through this, because Napoleon Hill talks about it a lot, is the other self. Will you find your other self? Now, when he talks about other self, it is a little bit different concept than some people might be able to digest, but it really comes out of a spiritual connection. And the other self is an entity that we will learn is not as complex as you may think it is. In other words, it's not a mystical thing that you have to be smoking pot to get to. What it is an energy that you feel, an energy that you can see. It is subtle, but you own it, and you'll learn that as we go through here. So we talked about the purpose and to amplify your chances of success. And the final thing I want to talk about is two things. What is this authentic life of freedom that I speak about? Because it's one of the things we're trying to get to here. It's a life where you can live your beliefs, your values, your purpose, vision, and passions without reliance upon, obligation to, or fear of the institutions of society, which in this book, Napoleon Hill refers to as civilization. They are very much the same entities as they were then. So to achieve this, you have to learn from this book the 10 methods of self-defense that will allow you to stay your course, to keep your purpose, to keep from being influenced by the negative energy that is the devil. And that's one of the things that I think I didn't realize as I read through the book initially. And you have the freedom as you go through this book and you listen to how Napoleon Hill got in contact with his other self, you're going to come away knowing that you have the freedom to do the same thing. You have the freedom to find your other self, and it will be what you want it to be. But in order for it to do what it can for you, you have to open up and be open-minded. And finally, the entrepreneur. This is a definition of an entrepreneur that I use because it is relevant. It came about before I ever found this book, but it is relevant, and I just kind of want to share that with you. An entrepreneur is somebody who understands or identifies and understands the needs of others, and with faith, courage, conviction, and resourcefulness, connects those people with a means of fulfilling their needs. Now that's a definition that is universal. And I came about that definition after studying entrepreneurship at a major university under some people that, they educated the founders of Google and other places. So consequently, I had a definition in my mind that was far different than this. And as I moved into my life, I determined that entrepreneurship was a natural state of humanity. It's something that we all possess. We are all a natural entrepreneur if we follow this particular definition. And there's a key word in there, and then we're going to move on to the forward. The key word in that definition is A. Okay, let me go back and read that for you. Someone who identifies and understands the needs of others and with faith, courage, conviction, and resourcefulness connects them with a means. The reason that's critical, A doesn't mean the. A means whatever it is that you determine would be helpful to them, even if you don't own it, produce it, sell it. If you can help them because you know of a way to do it, you do that. Because when you do that, the law of compensation will reward you. That which you give, you receive in another form, but ultimately you receive it. So that word, that one letter word, has a lot of meaning behind it. So I just wanted to explain that. So anyway, that's the introduction, and you have a chance to change the world. You have to define what your world is. So as you go through this series and you listen to the audiobook, and hopefully you acquire the book, Craig's put the link in the chat, you'll understand that the world is what you define it to be. What world are you trying to impact? What world are you trying to make better? And for some, they're going to say, well, it's the whole world. Others, it's going to be a segment of that world, a different focus, a different collection of people, a different outcome that they want to choose. And so in this book, hopefully you will learn philosophies, wisdom, new thinking that will help you do just that. So, oh, and of course, the institutions of society. And we've talked about those, but I want to just define it real quickly. An institution of society, as Napoleon Hill would explain it, I'm explaining it differently, is any entity seeking to influence, subvert, control, dominate, program, mandate, or direct your thoughts and actions, or to make your identity whatever they want it to be for purpose of achieving their agenda while having little or no sincere interest in your freedom to be who you desire and were meant to be. And that's a mouthful, and it sounds like an ideological rant. But what you're going to find in this book is, in fact, today, we have the same issues that he had, and that's that this institutions of society seek to dominate your thoughts, and they do it in ways that cause you to head in a direction that is sometimes irrecoverable. You can't get back from it. They can be subtle. And an institution of society doesn't have to be a big organization. It can be a person. It can be a relationship. It can be a school. It can be the government, whatever. You'll form an understanding of that as you get into this book. And that's the reason I wanted to share with you this particular definition, is keeping in mind that we have to be on guard of these entities. They are all around us, and they influence how we think, how we act, and that alone is a real problem. So that's it, Craig. Find and live your definite purpose with definiteness. And that's it. That's the intro.
Wow. I hope everybody got that. And of course, we do have it recorded, and we will definitely be sharing that in the Unlimited Wisdom group. Robert, I think, do you have the audio for us?
Yeah, Dana, do you want me to play it at that time, at this time?
Yeah, just all we're playing it today. It should be the there's a forward and an intro, I think, in that particular audio.
Okay, let me share that. Uh, and we gotta see if you guys can hear it okay. Can you guys hear that?
Nothing yet. Can you hear something, Robert? It may not.
Okay,
You may need to share before you share it with us. In other words, there's those two little boxes on the right side.
let me try it this way. Two little boxes on the right side. What do you
Okay,
mean?
when you click the share button, there
Yeah,
should be
okay,
two
let me go back.
boxes.
One
There should be
moment.
two boxes. One that's they both
Share
say
sound.
share sound. You got it. That's it. That's what we're looking for.
Wow.
And then go ahead and share the screen, and then the audio
To
will pick it
share
up.
complete audio, please install Zoom audio device.
Uh-oh.
Have you done that before?
I've been using Zoom for a long time, so I probably have, and it's been updating ever since. But
See
you've
if that
shared
does it.
audio before, I thought, Robert.
I thought I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back to it. Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Brilliance
We
Audio
got it.
presents the unabridged recording of Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, The Secret to Freedom and Success, by Napoleon Hill, edited and annotated by Sharon Lechter, performed by Dan John Miller and Phil Gigante.
Introduction by Sharon Lechter. Outwitting the Devil is the most profound book I have ever read. First, I was incredibly honored when Don Green, CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, trusted me enough to ask me to become involved in this project. And then I read the manuscript. I couldn't sleep for a week. written on a manual typewriter in 1938 by the master himself, Napoleon Hill, this manuscript had been locked away and hidden by Hill's family for 72 years. Why? Because they were frightened by the response it would invoke. Hill's courage in revealing the devil's work around each of us every day, in our churches, our schools, and our politics, threatened the very core of society as it was known at the time. When asked why the family had hidden the manuscript, Don Green recites the following inside story. It was the objections of Hill's wife, Annie Lou. She was secretary to Dr. William Plummer Jacobs, president of Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina. Jacobs was also owner of Jacobs Press and a public counselor to a group of South Carolina textile firms. Jacobs hired Hill to come to Clinton to work for him, and Annie Lou did not want the book published because of the role of the devil. She feared the response from organized religion, and maybe for Hill's job. Even though Hill died in 1970, Annie Lou did not die until 1984. Upon Annie Lou's death, the manuscript came into the possession of Dr. Charlie Johnson, then the president of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Charlie was the nephew of Annie Lou Hill. Charlie's wife, Frankie, knew and shared Annie Lou's feelings. Frankie told Charlie that she did not want the manuscript published while she was alive either. Charlie's wife passed away a couple of years ago, and Charlie finally gave me the manuscript, bound in red and embossed with the letters Outwitting the Devil in gold on the cover. The Foundation believes the manuscript has a powerful message that needs to be shared. After speaking with Don, I was overcome with a powerful realization. This book, even though written in 1938, was actually meant to be published today, meant to rock our society today. It was intended to provide answers during this uncertain economic and spiritual time. It provides the keys for each of us to outwit the devil in our own lives. It shows us how to chart a course for success and to add value to the world around us through the process. Just as Think and Grow Rich helped us recover and succeed after the Great Depression, Outwitting the Devil was written to help each of us recover and succeed today. You may ask if Hill believes his conversation with the devil was real, or was it merely imaginary? The choice is yours. But I also asked Don Green about Hill's thoughts in his other writings to see if we could get another look inside Hill's head. Don's response was as follows. The use of imaginary conversations was not new to Hill. In 1953, Hill published How to Raise Your Own Salary, which was written as a conversation between Hill and Carnegie. Hill had actually interviewed Carnegie in 1908, and Carnegie died in 1919, well before its publication. This was not the first time Hill used imaginary meetings to convey what he was writing about. In Think and Grow Rich, Hill, writing about the Sixth Sense, wrote about his imaginary council meeting with the 9 men whose life works had been the most impressive to Hill. These 9 imaginary council members were Emerson, Paine, Edison, Darwin, Lincoln, Burbank, Napoleon, Ford, and Carnegie. Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich that during his meetings with his invisible counselors, he found his mind most receptive to ideas, thoughts, and knowledge that reached him during these times when his sixth sense was activated. Outwitting the Devil was by no means his first time to write about religion. In fact, after he published Law of Success in 1928, he received letters of criticism about his stance on schools and religion. In Think and Grow Rich, in the chapter The 6 Ghosts of Fear, Hill wrote that fear of death, in the majority of cases, could be charged to religious fanaticism. Hill had much to say about religious leaders in this section of his classic bestseller. Hill had much to say about religion even in his Hill's Golden Rule magazine. He wrote an article, A Suggestion to Ministers of the Gospel, in which he admonished church leaders to teach their followers to practice harmony among each other. So the choice is yours. Did Hill actually talk to the devil, or is this a parable created to reach and touch your heart? Hill's unique style will pull you in and move you in ways you never thought possible. The words in this book are Hill's own. Since the original manuscript was quite lengthy, I edited with careful precision to preserve the profound impact of his message. I have kept his original language in place even when modern grammar may have dictated adjustments. In an effort to highlight certain issues, bring clarity to his words, and show how his predictions have become realities, I have added some thoughts throughout the manuscript. Please enjoy this powerful book and share it with your friends and family. The power in Hill's words can and will change your life. Sharon Lecter.
Chapter 1. My first meeting with Andrew Carnegie.
I think we'll hold
For more
chapter
than a
one
quarter.
for
Yeah,
right
we'll want to
now,
stop there,
Robert.
Greg.
There we go. Thank you very much. All right.
Oh, Dana, we can't hear you. You're
Yeah,
muted.
hold on, Dana. Yeah, just go ahead and unmute yourself, Dana.
There we go. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I can say that that introduction was probably enough for today. When we get into the first chapter, it's a long one, and I don't know if you want to speed that up on Audible. You can take it up maybe to 1.2 or 1.3. It depends. But yeah, we'll go into chapter 1 next time. That's when he reveals the history that he went through that brought him up to the point where he was going to write about this book. So,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that I have to say is, some of the books that made the biggest impact in me, like I always talk about The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino, is when I read that book and it was in a story form. You know what I mean? That a lot of people, the whole story just emotionally impacted me on such a state that it made it unforgettable. You know what I mean? So, I'm really looking forward to this book because, again, like a lot of you guys, I didn't want to dive ahead. I wanted to learn this at the same time that you guys learned it and get exposed to it the same time you guys do. And I know this concept of, just basically understanding that there's different voices in your head. We've talked about it for a long, long time. And I've even, put a character around it, Dino, rah, rah, like in the Flintstones. And just to be aware that voice is talking you out of things. And when I heard what Dana said today, which by the way, how do you guys love what Dana had to say? Dana just, I've never ever seen him, just watching the PowerPoint that he put together. We're gonna get really, really, really intense into this stuff because Dana just really, really, as a professor, somebody that has taught other people, he really prepares himself. I mean, when we were going through the science of getting rich, there that I knew Dana was not only going through it multiple times, but looking at it from different perspectives. So every time that he had something to share with us in the mastermind, it really, really brought it home to a lot of us. A lot of us couldn't wait for Dana to show up to give his perspective or a way that he thought this would be. So I really, really appreciate you, Dana, taking time out of your very, very, your schedule, but also, getting us educated of what this is going to do for us. I know there's a lot of people in the world and a lot of people that will watch this live or recorded that are just in this constant battle of why they're not the person they know they can be. Just end, period. It's like we all get up every morning and then we use these little voices to just totally destroy ourselves. And, sometimes it's not just about us. It's about the programming that you talked about, Dana, of just feeling like a lot of people nowadays don't have any hope because they just really honestly believe, who cares? Who cares? This isn't going to make a difference. You know what I mean? There's nothing I can do with the world ending. So, they constantly, we see all this stuff, even on a political side and a financial side, that, I've shared it with my sons many, many times. I was making a joke, Dana, I don't know if you were on the video, me being 64 in February, I was asking how many people went through drills about what we were supposed to do when a nuclear bomb hit us here in the United States, during the Cold War. And it's like we seriously had drills numerous times a year while we were in school on how we were supposed to hide underneath our desk, when, not if, when this bomb was coming. It was just a period in our time. And you sort of think about that, you go, wow, do you think that that had any effect on people? You know what I mean? It was like at any time. I can think that it had a negative effect, but I also thought that it had a positive effect. For me, I just was like, well, if the world's going to end, why not live every day like it was your last day? You know what I mean? It can change in a positive way of the way that we think about this. And I hope and I believe that outwitting the devil, that's what it's going to do. It's like, listen, if you really understand all the voices that are bombarding us, and especially with algorithms designed to keep our attention, that, people think that they're in control of what's happening in their life. But if they're making comments and watching a video for 1 second more than they were watching another video, we know the algorithm is just feeding them stuff that just make them feel like it's just not worth it. It's why should I care? Why should I do anything? And so, Dana, I just thank you very much. Terry, you have anything to say or no? So I'll leave the closing statements to you, Dana.
Okay, well, thank you, Robert. That was, as usual, very insightful and authentic. Very much so. Yeah, this book is going to have an impact if you let it. And it's like any book you read it with intention. And I really do encourage you to go buy the book, on Amazon.com. Having the book as a resource so that you can go back and highlight it or write in it or go back and say, what was that idea that he shared without having to go watch the video again? It's a book that you'll want to get, and it comes in both hardcover and paperback. I've got both. I use the paperback to highlight and scribble in because I hate to take a good hardback book that I can pass along to somebody else and scribble in it. But no, it'll be a really insightful time together. And I would encourage you to participate, ask questions. The format that we're going to use is similar to the last one when we did the Science of Getting Rich. We'll listen to the chapter. And in that chapter, there will be ideas, and then we'll come back and we'll ask about those ideas. What are your thoughts on them? What was it that really jumped out to you? What meant something to you? What are you confused about? What questions might you have? Because ultimately, in a mastermind, and here's one of the things to remember about a mastermind. The guy who invented the mastermind that we refer to today was Napoleon Hill.
Oh, wow.
And that mastermind he describes in it, initially, his mastermind had everything to do with the imaginary meeting that he had with several notable historical figures that he admired. So before he went to bed at night, he would sit down and he'd go through a meeting with these people. That to him was a mastermind, and he moved that into the mortal space. And the definition of a mastermind is getting one or more or two or more people together whose minds are in synergy with a common goal. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same objective. Let's say that we all want to change the world in some special way, but we all have our different ways of doing it. Well, Napoleon Hill's mastermind was exactly that. You get people together who have faith and belief. Those two things are critical. So that's another thing I wanted to mention going into this. If you have belief that what you're going to learn is valuable to you, it will become valuable to you. If you are reluctant to believe, or you're just going to kind of see, you're going to miss some things. So you need to sit down and really tell yourself, okay, I'm going to believe that this can be useful to me. Belief, it's going to be useful. I can take this, I can run with it. And the intention and beliefs are two different things. And I would encourage you to kind of leave intention out of your vocabulary while we're going through this and rely on belief, because that's going to be critical. But But in his mastermind, belief and faith were two of the critical elements of making sure that the two or more people who were gathered together produced a result. Now, here's another observation I'll share with you, and then we'll kind of close her out for today. In his time, a mastermind was a physical meeting. You were all in a room around a table, and you were talking, you were sharing ideas, you were feeling one another, you were getting emotional about the objective. What we have learned over the years, what he began to teach us, and what, in the consciousness studies that are going on today, we've come to realize that what our thoughts are energy. Our thoughts are the signature of who we are. When you think something, that's energy, and it is comprised of a number of different frequencies and wavelengths that comprise the thought. That thought is available at an infinite distance. Now that may seem a little woo-woo and weird, but in a quantum world, that's a real possibility. It's a form of entanglement, if you will, but it means that if we have the same belief in ourselves and in what we're trying to do, and we have faith in it, then even though we're separated by thousands, if not, multiple thousands of miles, and we're just connected digitally, we have the same access to the mastermind. So you have to believe that the energy that is in the universe, that's in the infinite intelligence, is communicating. You're going to have to kind of think about that maybe. But this mastermind is every bit as powerful and as effective and relevant as the masterminds that Napoleon Hill began way back in the day before the internet. How many of you can think back to before the internet? Yeah, I can. But yeah, some days you wonder, how did I ever live without my smartphone? Anyway, so that I just wanted to interject that little bit of dialogue before we close out for the day. And then next time we're going to launch right into chapter 1.
Awesome.
And I couldn't agree with you more, Dana. It's like again, I that was the notes that I took. Is like anyone that's known me for any amount of time, I probably challenged their imagination by actually saying that I have could always had conversations with my imaginary friends. You know what I mean? And I think it's very interesting as we move into this is that, it's just when people put names to it that they need to shut down. One of my mentors, I talk about him all the time, Roger Penske. He was telling me that one of the many things that he shared with me, Dana, that is just so powerful is he would say the ability to learn something is to take it all in and not judge it as you're listening to it. See, you don't need everything from everybody, but you need to have open ears and just allow the information to come in. And as it comes in and you're taking notes, and of course you can watch the replays, you can go through the book and the audio numerous times, go through the mastermind. That's when you study and say, this is for me, this is not for me. This is for me, this is not for me. Where people become ignorant and continue to stay ignorant is they're judging things as they hear them. And I was thinking when we did this, that just outwitting the devil, just saying the word devil, and knowing that everyone that watches this live or recorded has a different definition of that one word, just like they do love, right? It's like there's people that you'll find in the world that just believe that love doesn't exist. Why? Because they never experienced it and they don't believe in it. So if you say to someone, have you ever loved somebody? And they go, no, I don't know what love is. Well, if you don't have a definition to it and you don't believe in it, then that one entity in one word is nothing to you. And so there's my what, 5 cents or whatever. So I love and appreciate you. We'll turn it over to Craig. Thank you very much, Dana. Can't wait. And am I correct? It's next Wednesday, same time? Okay.
All right, that's what we're going to do. So, just as a reminder, next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, we will all be doing this again. It will be officially chapter 1. Today was just the wedding of the appetite. The appetizer. There we go.
Rehearsal.
The rehearsal. Exactly. Thank you, Terry. So we really, really appreciate everybody's participation in today. And let's give a round of applause to Dana. Dana, thank you so very much. We appreciate you. And we're going to enjoy this. Now, there's quite a few chapters. So, the point here is that we will keep this in perpetuity. We will have a separate classroom for Outwitting the Devil. So if you want to refer back to this particular start, it will be in the classroom under Outwitting the Devil. And please take a look at that. And then as well as all future get-togethers on this. Again, it will be every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And Lisa Marie is saying, can we invite people? If they are part of Unlimited Wisdom. It is open.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is open to everybody. I mean, this is not a premium, okay? So, bring them into Unlimited Wisdom. Have them join our family. And then have them join us 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, and let them be a part of this. This is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting.
Here's a, you guys know me, one-liners, elevator closes. You know what I mean? One thing that you could get people, you could say to people, Lisa Marie, whether you believe in the adversary or not, would you like to figure out how to outwit him? That's the mastermind that we're going through. That would be so curious to me. You know what I mean? We're right now doing a mastermind with 20 plus people on figuring out how to outwit the adversary, the devil. I think that you should check it out. There you go.
In a nutshell, that's it. Okay. Just a reminder, we posted the link in the chat to get the book, and it is available. And we'll also make sure that it is on the replay in the transcript below. So if you miss it, that's fine. It'll be a part of the classroom. But if you want it, go ahead and click the 3 dots in the meeting chat and then click on Save Chat, and it will download to your computer. Robert posted, the Audible version of that. Very good. Okay. So I'm going to grab that
That's my affiliate link, so make sure to use that. No,
right.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our first episode of Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, as featured and shared by Dana Scranton. So thank you all very much for joining us. We will be back again next week. Don't forget our regular schedule of events. Check the calendar under Unlimited Wisdom, and we will see you next time. Until then, be good to yourselves. Be cash. Bye-bye. I am going to go ahead and unmute so we can all say so long. And have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
Dane.
everybody.
Bye, Dustin, Shelley, Melody,
Thank you, Dana.
Matthew,
Robert.
Mike, Lisa
Everyone,
Marie, Erlene.
God bless y'all.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Corky,
Guys,
Thank
Coach
you.
Bob, Michael, Angela, Bill Shoemaker. Great to see you. I missed you today.
Missed you too.
Thank you, Dana. Thanks, Craig. Bye-bye, Erlene.
Bye.